All right. X and Y intercepts. Okay, we have already talked about how to find the y-intercept when talking about slope-intercept form. Okay, the y-intercept is when the graph of the line crosses what axis? The y-axis. Okay, so the y-intercept, which will be written as an ordered pair, okay, is at the value or the ordered pair of x equals 0, comma, now how high do we cross the y-axis at? Page 11. 8. So the y-intercept is at the ordered pair 0, comma 8, or y equals 8. The x-intercept is no different, okay? If the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-intercept, okay? Now, the x value in this situation is 8, and the y value is 0. Look at that. Now, that's how you find the intercepts on a graph. Very easy, very simple, yay. Okay? Now, what you truly need to know is how to find the x and y intercepts from an equation. To do that, to find the x-intercept, so looking at x-intercept here, okay, what did y equal? 0. So in our rules with equations to find the x-intercept, you will replace, aka substitute y with 0 and solve for x. So to find the x-intercept, you will replace the y value with 0, aka substitute, and then solve for x. Simple as that. Okay? Now to find the y-intercept, what do you think, based on the rule that we just wrote, what do you think we will do here? Perfect. We will replace x with 0 and solve for y. Man, y'all are so smart. So an example here, find the x and y intercept of the equation. So let's find the x-intercept first. Okay, so I'm going to take the equation y equals 3x plus 6. So I want to find the x-intercept, which means y must equal what? 0. Okay, so instead of y, I put 0 equals 3x plus 6. Now we just solve by doing our solving steps. Okay, nothing to distribute, no like terms to combine. All the variables are on one side. X is all on the right-hand side. Okay, now we just move, that was weird. Move all my constants. 6 is my constant, so I will move it with subtraction. So now I have negative 6 equals 3x. Then I want to isolate my variable. The only way to isolate anything is with multiplying or dividing. In this case, the opposite is division. Negative 6 divided by 3 is x equals negative 2. Okay, now if I asked you to write it in an ordered pair, what would that look like? Negative 2 comma 0. Okay, so that's the x-intercept where you just make y equals 0. Now what if I wanted to find the y-intercept? Okay, again, we're taking the equation y equals 3x plus 6. But instead of putting 0 in for y, I put it in for x. So y is going to equal 3 times 0 plus 6. What is 3 times 0? What's 0 plus 6, Ben? Ben? Thank you. Can't tell if you're awake or dead. Okay, y equals 6. If I asked you to write it as an ordered pair, what would that look like? 0, comma 6. Y'all are so smart. Let's do another example, shall we? Okay. Now, all of these equations are in what format? Slope. Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, there are two different forms that we've been dealing with. Slope-intercept. What's the other one? Also starts with an S. Standard form, which we will go over here next. Okay, for right now, slope-intercept form. So I want to solve for the x-intercept first. Okay, which means instead of having y, I have 0 equals. Now this does say negative x. Okay, it does say negative x. What number do we assume is our coefficient? 1. So I'm going to have negative 1x plus 5. I do that so I can solve. Move the constant. Negative 5 equals negative 1x. Isolate our variable. Okay. That gives me x. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 5 divided by 1 is 5. Now, x does equal 5. However, if I wanted to write it as an ordered pair, what would that look like? 5 comma 0. 5 is x, so I put 5 for the x spot in an ordered pair. Remember, ordered pairs are always x comma y. Ordered pairs are always x comma y. And then if you deal with 3D figures, x, y, and z is another type of ordered pair, but that's for 3D things. You're not dealing with that. Okay? But it's fun to show y'all. Y-intercept. So in order to find the y-intercept, what must be 0? X. Okay? If I have a negative 1 out here, anything times 0 is what? 0. What's 0 plus 5? So if I wanted, this is one way to write your answer. What's the ordered pair way? 0 comma 5. All right, I'm going to show you how to do number 2, and then you will do number 3 on your own. I'm going to show you how to do number 2 with a fraction. Nothing changes. So we're going to find our x first, which means y equals 0. Solve it the same way. Plus 8 plus 8. So I have 8 equals 1/2 times x. Okay, I'm going to follow my normal rules. 1/2 is being multiplied to the x variable, correct? Correct? Yes. What's the opposite of multiplication? So I'm going to divide by 1/2. That'll give me x equals, what is 8 divided by 1/2? Take your calculator, type in 8 divided, then do alpha x to get your fraction, 1 over 2. Okay, and then hit enter and you get 16. If you divide by a fraction, your number actually gets bigger. If you multiply by a fraction, it gets smaller. Okay, so that is actually x equals 16. Okay, so that will give me 16 comma 0. Now to solve for my y, okay, y equals 1/2 times 0 minus 8. Anything times 0 is 0. And that gives me negative 8. Yeah. Finding the y-intercept, I plug in 0 for x. 1/2 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 8 is negative 8. So I have two ways of writing our answers. You can write it as y equals negative 8, or you write it as the ordered pair, 0, negative 8. With that being said, I now want you to attempt number 3 on your own, using number 2 as your example with dealing with the fraction. Sure, Tim. Just so you know, that's on the recording now. Hint, you can have a fraction as an answer. Fraction is possible. You can have a fraction as your answer. All right, time for the random name generator. It's for someone to give me the X-intercept, and then I will do the random name generator to get the Y-intercept. So the
Can you go up there?
yes. Tim. He can't. He was in the restroom when he did it. So it's the one and only time you get an excuse, Tim. Riley! Riley, if you can solve for the X-intercept, that'd be great. You can take your paper up there with you. It's not a quiz. Spin number 2. Alexa. just move that out of the way. Yeah. It's been a long day already. Riley, I have one question for you. Okay, you put negative 3 over 2. However, negative 2 divided by a negative divided by a negative fraction. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so it's actually a positive 3 over 2. Perfect. By the way, that is correct. That is the correct fraction. Negative 2? Sorry, I need to check my paper. Are we sure it's negative? Because the original equation, it was negative 4/3 x plus 2. There you go. Okay, so yeah, it was originally plus 2, so we have our plus 2 here. Good, good, and you gave me the ordered pair answer, which is perfect. Boom. Okay, questions, comments, or concerns? Anybody get anything different? Y'all probably wouldn't say anything anyway. So, at first. All right, let's go ahead and turn the page. Now we're going to talk about standard form, and Corbin is going to erase what's up there. Thank you, Corbin. So now we're going to talk about standard form. So we just talked about what form? Slope-intercept. Thank you, checkers. Okay, now we're going to talk about standard form. Standard form is when the x and the y are both on the same side. However, your process does not change. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, I'm still going to substitute 0 in for the y. So I have x minus 0, which equals 2. Technically, this is a negative 1 times 0. What's negative 1 times 0? 0. So I have x equals 2. Oh, hey, isn't that what I'm trying to get? Yeah. So that's one way to write the answer. What's the other way to write it? As an ordered pair. 2, 0. Now for the y-intercept, same thing. Substitute 0 in for x this time, but I have a negative 1y over here because of the negative. Okay, that's 0, and I'm left with negative 1y equals 2. Divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, to where y equals negative 2. So that's one way to write your answer. What's the other way? 0, negative 2. Would you like me to do another example, or is it all kind of the same thing still? Between slope and standard? Good question. Slope-intercept form, we had to, oh, not even on the camera. We had to actually solve for things, correct? All right, we had to actually solve multi-step equations. All right, standard form, when I plugged in 0 for the x, did the x basically just disappear? Yeah. If I plugged 0 in for y, didn't the y basically just disappear?
Yeah.
There's the difference. If I have standard form, if I'm given standard form and I ask you for the X-Intercept, the cheat way is to just say, well, I'm just going to plug in 0 for that, which means that just kind of cancels out itself. So the X-Intercept is technically just 3x equals 12. And you just solve that. The Y-Intercept, if I'm just going to sub 0 in for that, that's 0. I'm left with negative 2y equals 12. I don't have to go through all the substitution steps with standard form. I can just say, standard form, find my x and y intercept, just set the x equal to 12 and then the y equal to 12, and I'm good. And then you just have a one-step equation. Divide by 3 on both sides, x equals 4. Divide by negative 2 on both sides, y equals negative 6. You just cancel out the opposite variable. You're basically just like, I'm done with this. Okay, so that would give me 4, 0, 0, negative 6. All right, number 6 on your own. Number 6 on your own. And then I'll call up for 2 volunteers. What do you mean convert it to a fraction? I'd rather the fraction form. You ask yourself, if I divide this, would I be given a decimal? If your answer is yes, then you just leave it as is and just reduce the fraction. Because fractions are just division problems. I've told you that before. Just reduce the fraction. How do you reduce a fraction? If I have 8 over 16 and I simplified it, what would I get? 1/2. Improper fractions aren't different. You simplify it like a normal fraction.
Okay, I understand now.
We could use more math teachers.
Or the fractions, what do you do?
You just put the fraction in. Make sure the fraction is in simplest form, like so. I was about to say, or is the fraction actually your x value? There you go. All right. Time to spin the wheel of not ideal. Because I know y'all don't like to go up there. Helva. Do the X-Intercept, please. What? Is that a way that I showed you how to solve it? Then it's okay. And then give me the ordered pair. Perfect. Perfect. Negative 5/4, comma 0. X equals negative 5/4. Yes, you can have a fraction as your ordered pair. Just make sure you reduce it. So again, right here you get negative 10 divided by 8 when you solve. So you divide by 8 to both sides. Okay. That tells you if you did that in the calculator, you would get a decimal. So if you get a decimal, Coach Kimball would rather the fraction. So you just take that because division problems are fractions. Fractions are division problems. They're the same thing. Just reduce the improper fraction right there. As easy as that. Yes, Corbin? Okay. Wheel of not ideal. Addison. Show us your Y-Intercept, Daigle. Good! Yay! 0, comma, negative 1. That's literally a 0, comma, negative 1. Somebody needs their eyes checked. You know 2020 is not actually the good vision. 2030 is actually even more impressive. 2020 is average vision. Any questions? I think standard form is actually the easiest form. So, okay, Addison, do you mind going back up there and erasing that? Thank you. Or Corbin, thank you. Either one. I just didn't want to keep asking Corbin to do it over and over and over again. So, now I'm going to show you how to graph it by only finding the X and Y intercepts. Okay? We have talked about graphing standard form before, but the process that we did was convert it to slope-intercept form, which is kind of a lengthy process. I'm going to show you a quicker process where you find the X and Y intercept. So it's in standard form, so that means X can be set to equal 3, and then Y can be set to equal 3. However, if I notice something, there are no coefficients to divide, so that's literally my X and Y intercept, because there are no coefficients to divide. So I'm going to go to my 0, 0 origin. I'm going to go to X equals 3. Boom. Then I'm going to go back to my origin, go to Y equals 3. It's hard. Okay, and now I can actually draw my graph from this. It's hard to see, I know. I do wish the X and Y axis were more bolded. Okay, so 10, I'm going to do 10 now. So 10, that's technically negative 1y. So to find the x-intercept, I will set my x equal to 7. To find the y-intercept, I will set the y equal to 7. Here I divide. Now, if you notice, you get 7 over 2 as my fraction. This is an instance where you would rather want the decimal because I'm graphing it. What is 7 divided by 2 in the calculator? Correct, 3.5. Okay? This is an instance where the fraction doesn't help you. I would rather you do the decimal so you can graph it. 3.5. So I'm going to go to x equals 3.5. 1, 2, 3, and then a half. Okay? Now over here, divide by negative 1 to both sides. Y equals negative 7. So I'm going to go down to negative 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you just connect the 2 points. And la-di-da, you have a graph. Now you are going to do number 8. Only number 8. And only one person this time will be picked to graph it. So you must solve for the x and y intercept, plot the points, and connect said points. Five times y equals 20 technically.
Well, but that's right, right? 5 times y. For the y part? You get negative 5 for x. I'm right.
But that's not your answer.
Oh, yeah. What? I'm negative.
Wait, what? No. Random generator. I appreciate the offer, though. Gotta keep everyone on their toes, Corbin.
No, bro, you. Oh, you messed me up.
Okay, so since the debate team seems to have their answers over there,
No, I didn't put it on the graph.
that means I feel comfortable spinning the wheel of not ideal.
No.
Jet!
Yes, hey, I'm gonna do.
Yes, take your paper up there with you because you can. And show us the right answer. When I met you in the summer. Got it. Those darn lefties. Yeah, it's hard to see. Awesome. Okay, so he got his x-intercept as -5. Do y'all agree?
Yes.
He got his y-intercept, I almost said x again, y-intercept as +4. Do y'all agree? Yes, I do too. Okay, then we plot the graph. No, I just bumped the graph by accident. I just bumped the graph. See, now I'm matched up. All right, turn the page. Corbin, I guess you seem to have helped me out a lot here. Now we're going to talk about horizontal and vertical lines, because I can have a horizontal and vertical line slope. Okay? I can have horizontal and vertical lines on a graph. You need to be able to find the x and y intercepts on these also. Now, a vertical line is written in the form of x equals a, where a represents the line's x-intercept. So whenever you have a vertical line, you will only have an x-intercept, because a vertical line will never cross the y-axis. It will never cross it. That's the important part, the crossing part. It'll only cross the x-axis. I could have a vertical line on the y-axis, but it never crosses it. It's just on it. There is a difference. Okay? Now, since vertical lines are written as x equals, what does x actually equal? And that's your answer. Horizontal lines are written in the form of y equals a, where a represents the line's y-intercept. The equation for a horizontal line of the graph above is y equals. I find where it crosses the y-axis. Where does it cross the y-axis at? And that's your answer. Wow. Now, we have an acronym. I'm pretty sure it's called an acronym for helping us with vertical and horizontal lines. And this is called VUX and OI. Okay? VUX and OI. Now, VUX is an acronym for vertical lines, which has an undefined slope, and the equation is written as x equals whatever the a value is. I'm going to rewrite this. Vertical line, undefined slope, and x equals whatever the x-intercept is. OI is when I have a horizontal line and I have a zero slope, to where I have the y equals a, aka the intercept, where a represents each intercept. A represents each intercept. Okay? So, VUX and OI helps us identify two things: the slope, and it helps us identify the intercept. So here, what type of line do I have right here?
Vertical.
A vertical line. A vertical line has what type of slope? Undefined. And the x-intercept is a, which is x equals -2. And that's your answer. Number 2, do I have a vertical or horizontal line? Which means what type of slope do I have? Zero slope. Where I have y equals a, and a represents where we cross the y-axis. Where do we cross the y-axis at? Y equals 3 is where we cross the y-axis at. And that's your answer. I know, mind explosion. Seems pretty simple, right? Cool. So simple, you're going to do 3, 4, 5, and 6. You're giving me the intercepts for 3, 4, 5, and 6. And Coach Kimball's going to fall asleep. Yes, Tim. Do you have a question? Yeah. Time for the wheel of not ideal. Jose, you will show us your answer for 3. Corbin will show us his answer for 4. Riley will show the answer for 5. And 6, Xavier. Huh? Yeah, she's on there. She's right there. Y'all don't have to wait one by one. Y'all can go up there. There's multiple pins up there. We knew what you meant, Jose. Taking the long way around. Sweet. Y equals -5 for 3 is correct. 4 is x equals 4 because it's a vertical line. 5 is x equals because it is, again, a vertical line, but it is on the y-axis, so it's x equals 0. Okay. And then 6 is y equals 2 because it's a horizontal line, so it's a y equals. Questions, comments, concerns?
Are we doing the questions today?
If I can have a volunteer to go erase what is up there. Thank you, Corbin. All right. Question 7. The directions do say graph each equation. So what we just did is we took a graph and wrote the equation. Now I'm going to give you the equation and you have to create a graph. If I have y equals, is that vux or oi?
Oi.
Oi. And oi tells me what type of line? Not slope. Horizontal. It tells me what type of line. It's horizontal. So I'm going to go to y at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there. Yep, hard to read. Boom. And that's it. 8 is x equals -1. Is that a vux or an oi? Which means what type of line will I have? Vertical line. So at -1, x's are vertical, y's are horizontal, which is why we have the vux and oi, so we can remind ourselves that. Now, I'm not going to waste our time, and I'm not going to have us graph all of these because it's just over and over repeated the same thing. Let's go ahead and talk about these questions down here that are really important. All right. Now, what is the slope of the line y equals -4? How on earth will I ever know this? Well, it's a good thing we have our acronym. If I have y equals, that is an oi. Where the first letter tells you what type of line, in this case horizontal. The second letter tells you the slope. And the slope in this situation is 0. Yay for acronyms. For horizontal lines, it is always 0. For vertical lines, what is the slope of the line x equals? Well, I know x is part of vux. This tells you what type of line. This tells you the slope. And u represents undefined. Gotta love the acronyms. Okay? What is the slope of the line x equals 0? What's the slope of the line of x equals 0? Oh, it's an x equals 0. So it's vux, which means undefined. Sorry? Yep. Which is why we have the acronym. Which axis is y equals -1 parallel to? Oh. So y equals means I have an oi, which means horizontal line. So if I just take a graph up here and I draw a horizontal line, am I parallel to the x-axis or am I parallel to the y-axis? Parallel. And if I have a vux situation, I'm parallel to the because if I have a vertical line, I'm parallel to the y-axis. Aww. How does the graph of y equals 3 differ from y equals 3x? So this is going to be my graph 1, and this will be graph 2. Okay, so I'm going to graph this on graph 1, y equals 3. That is a OI, which means I will have a horizontal line at x equals 3. Or sorry, y equals 3. Okay, this says y equals 3x. This is y equals mx plus b format, except b is just 0. 3 is with what variable? I'm pointing to it.
X.
I'm pointing to it.
Oh,
M, and M represents what? Slope. So I have a slope of 3. So I'm going to go up 3 over 1. Then I go down 3 over 1 to do the reverse.
Why did that way?
This is
Why?
y equals OI. This is y equals 3x, which is slope-intercept form. So 3 equals your slope. M equaled 3 over 1. So I rise 3, go over 1. Now it's asking what's the difference between the two. The difference is graph 1 has a slope of 0. Because it's a what type of line? Horizontal line. Graph 2 has a slope of
0. 3, 1. It's 2. Wait, 2. I don't get how it's 2. 3, 1. Wait, never mind. It's 3. 3, 1.
Graph 2 is y equals mx plus b, except b is 0. My y-intercept is 0. What do you mean how I do the arrow thing? That's just the end of the line. Rise over the run. 3 over 1.
Oh.
If I have a number directly next to the letter x, that is your m. That's your slope. Okay? This one, do I have a y equals 3x? No. So it's an OI situation because there's no x. X is vermuscht. So now that we have discovered that we are completely delirious by making dad jokes, it is now at this time that I will inform you that we are done with